Dear friends, one of the great authors of the last century was Morris West. Always meticulous in his research, he wrote perceptively and at times prophetically about issues and events in a way that both gripped and disturbed his readers. In one of his earliest books, and one of my favorite ones, The Shoes of the Fisherman, the cardinals ask the newly elected Pope, "What do you want?" He replies, "Find me men with fire in their hearts and wings on their feet." What a powerful insight! Is it not true that God is always looking for men and women who have the fire of the Spirit in their hearts and the wings of obedience on their feet? Let's look at the reading for today as we reflect upon that thought in relation to the transfiguration of Jesus. Firstly, the vision of God's glory was a gift to Jesus and the disciples to sustain them through the tough trials ahead. Friends, we all face times of struggle, suffering, and sacrifice, and it's tempting in those times to feel that God has either abandoned us or is punishing us. But God's promise to us is the same as God's promise to Jesus. In our suffering, God's glory can be revealed, and we can experience a deeper sense of God's presence and affirmation. We only need to recognize that God is with us, and that in our suffering, God still seeks to reveal God's glory through us. Secondly, in the Transfiguration, God communicates in an awesome way because the message is an awesome message. Jesus is God's beloved child, and we are to listen to him. The Transfiguration is a revelatory moment that Jesus is the one in whom the law and the prophets is fulfilled, the beloved Son of God. So the appearance of Moses and Elijah, representing the law and the prophets, revealed that Jesus was the fulfillment of the Old Testament plan of salvation. In all the voices of the world and the voices crying out in our souls, this is the one to listen to. And what Jesus shows us in this moment of glory is that the life of love and justice that he was committed to would bring suffering and death. Friends, it takes courage to live as a follower of Jesus, and nothing releases courage in our hearts like a vision of God's glory. Thirdly, Jesus' refusal of allowing Peter to proceed with building a dwelling is not so much an objection against the construction, but what it represents. It would build a monument for a religious experience, turning God into a moment of idolatry. We must guard against being imprisoned by past experiences of God's glory. Also, friends, it points to the building of power bases and the way in which the world's political and economic powers are structured. These can cause civil unhappiness, not so much because they are there, but because it represents so much of what we struggle with in our world. The disparity between rich and poor, opulence in the midst of extreme poverty, and of course the wielding of power. The question for me is, where to now with all of this? You see, the Transfiguration is about transformation. Love that calls us beyond ourselves is transforming. In the transforming love of Christ, the Messiah's servant, we can transfigure despair into hope, sadness into joy, anguish into healing, estrangement into community. Transformation needs law, Moses, which serves as a guide, but it also needs prophetic voice, Elijah, which helps with accountability. And then, of course, it needs grace, represented in Jesus, who shows us how to live and love. Friends, accepting the God of blessing is easy. But when that God becomes the God of suffering, who asks us to give readily and humbly to others and to forgive one another without limit or condition, then we begin to insulate ourselves from the relationship God invites us to embrace. Not only did Jesus transfigure, my friends, But the disciples came down the mountain, different to when they ascended. There's an old hymn with the words in it, "His angels here are human." Etienne de Grelais, the Quaker missionary, said, "I shall not pass this way but once. Any good that I can do and any kindness I can show to any human being, let me do it now. Let me not defer nor neglect it, for I shall not pass this way again." Find me people with fire in their hearts and wings on their feet. What a powerful insight. Is it not true that God is always looking for men and women who have the fire of the Spirit in their hearts and wings of obedience on their feet? Amen.